Every country in the world has debt. The United States debt has risen above $38 trillion. The European Union's is $14 trillion. Japan's nearly $9 trillion. Even wealthy oil countries and export powerhouses have debt. But here's the interesting part. If everyone is in debt, who exactly do we owe this money to? Actually, the answer isn't as complicated as it seems. Most of the world's debt belongs to the world itself. In other words, we all owe each other. But of course, not everyone benefits equally from this debt cycle. To understand how we got here, we need to look a bit into history. The idea of national debt goes back much further than you might think. Centuries before the first credit card, in 1694, England ran out of money in the middle of a war and turned to merchants for loans. In return, it offered them regular interest payments from future taxes. This system was so big and important that the Bank of England was created to manage it. From then on, governments could spend money they didn't yet have. That's how government bonds were born. Other countries soon adopted the system, and debt became not a mark of failure but a sign of trust. A government that could borrow was considered strong. Today, debt has become almost a global issue. The US has debt, Japan has debt, Europe has debt, but at the same time everyone is lending to someone else. Banks, pension funds, central banks. Through taxes, savings, and retirement accounts, we have all become both lenders and borrowers. For example, most of the US's $38 trillion debt actually belongs to Americans themselves. Banks, funds, even the Federal Reserve hold much of it. Foreign countries only hold a small portion. So when people say the US owes China, that's true, but it's only part of the picture. This cycle is happening all over the world. Countries lend to each other, while financial markets sit right in the middle. Big funds and investors decide who can borrow cheaply and who has to pay more. When confidence disappears, the consequences are clear, as we've seen in Greece, Argentina, and Sri Lanka. When debt becomes unsustainable, the invisible creditors suddenly become very visible. Here's another reality. Governments don't borrow to pay off their debt. They borrow to roll it over, like a subscription that renews continuously. The principal isn't what matters. It's the interest. Government debt today is the safest financial asset in the world. It's the foundation of pension funds, banks, and central banks alike. In fact, if the US were to suddenly pay off all its debt, it would be a disaster for the global economy. The system is built on government debt. That's why the goal isn't to eliminate it, but to keep it sustainable. One more point. When we say we owe it to ourselves, we forget that the burden of debt isn't spread evenly across society. Interest payments usually flow upward, from workers to investors. In the end, debt works like the heartbeat of the modern world. No one expects it to ever disappear completely. What matters is that everyone keeps believing in it. Because if confidence collapses, the whole system could fall apart in an instant.